Hey everyone, coming at you with another video today showing some information from one of my old training manuals for executive protection, private sector, private military contracting, private security contracting. Some of the instructional stuff and training stuff from some old Relic books. So in the prior video last week I had shown some of the vehicle dynamics. This time around we're going to go over what's called advanced plan or security advanced plan or advanced work. Again, much like I said last time, the nomenclature and terminology is different based on who you're being trained by, you know, date and time, you know, as things evolve, and whatever other nuances, you know, who you're working with, you know, globally, regionally, things like that. The Brits are going to say different things than the Americans are. Different American training companies may use slightly different terminology, you know, so on and so forth. I digress. Security advanced plan, advanced party or security advanced planning with a team, that kind of thing. Okay. First off, locations, full postable addresses, all relevant telephone numbers and maps and grid references. These are for your primary sites. So, main venue where the principal or client or your dignitary or whoever, your family, whatever it is, homestead in that application, where that is, and then other vital points. All emergency contact information, all of that stuff. Other primary venues where meetings are going to be, where the hotel is, you know, all that kind of stuff. Special events, all reservations, bookings, clients and team, purchase of any tickets, you know, all of a lot of administrative handling stuff, you know, parents, people in the MAG, logistics personnel, supply support personnel, they're going to be handling that kind of stuff. Disseminate accordingly. Route selection. Pace plan here, main route, primary, secondary route, alternate, and then so on and so forth, contingent or tertiary, and then exigent or emergency. Okay. You should always have 4 routes, 2 at a minimum, but you should always have 4 at really, with one of those being an emergency. Exact mileages, exact timings, test runs. I have done videos on this before, driving around talking about this kind of thing, doing and other videos talking about surveillance detection routes and, you know, in brief and things like that too. But exact timings, you know, test runs to be made at different times of the same day, or, you know, on various days if, you know, you're just doing this for your MAG and for your own personal uses and not on a job or whatever, but as applies to both. At different times in the same day, and or, you know, spread out through a number of days at different times to get an overall time in general. Locations, phones, you know, coins, card, etc. There are different forms of communication. Obviously, your cell phone is a primary now any day, nowadays anyway, but payphones do still exist. Phones at various sites, locations, hotel lobby phones, access to phones a number of other ways, and so on and so forth. And then if you're paying for getting a secondary phone, i.e. a burner, digital eSIM, things like that. Location of phones on the route, so again, kind of plays into that. All communication black spots. How's your service? How's your reception? You know, do you have deficiency issues? Are you going to have problems? Do you just have bad provider? You know, things to think about. Safe havens. So secondary hard points. Concentric layering, defense in depth, concentric layering outward of places that you can go to hard point, what we call hard pointing. Meaning you can secure it, fortify, barricade, whatever, to make it a place where you can be safe for a period of time. So safe havens, emergency, RVs, so police, military establishments, if accessible, things like that. So British abbreviate there. So again, you know, if you're really having an issue and you need to get somewhere safe for a short period of time, that is an option as well. You have variable in a number of things. Location, numbers of all nearest hospitals. and other assistance and QRF units. Are doctors on site and on call? Do you have your own medical team, medical personnel? Do you have them with you? You know, and that's where that route rendezvous and the route planning and things come into play. Everybody needs to be filled in. Everyone needs to have the same entire advance plan. First aid equipment and locations, obligatory. Vehicle breakdown services and response times. So, are you a technical support team? Are you going to be doing a vehicle recovery? Are you on the mobile team assisting with vehicle dynamics? You know, what's going on there? Factors of roadworks, any heavy vehicle movements. So, kind of going back to the timings and test running of routes and things like that. Where's the construction? Where and what times during the day is the traffic? Weather, always the big one. And other places of interest. High density areas where there's a lot of general foot traffic and otherwise. I've talked about in a driving video before, sensitive or risk areas and sensitive areas, overpasses, high buildings with vantage points with easy access like parking garages, above ground multi-layer parking structures, you know, things like that. Danger areas, traffic lights, roundabouts, heavy traffic areas, crossroads, tunnels, bridges, railway crossings, overlooking buildings, banking, narrow roads, unlit areas and areas with no lights, one-way streets, and areas of general high crime. We'll talk about the threat assessment here in a few minutes. So those are your danger areas. Police assistance, officers in charge, anti-terrorist and special branch numbers, if you have that with assets, be that professionally or personally. You know, do you have a connection? Do you have any kind of relationship with your local sheriffs or whatever else? K9 units, bomb units, and the reaction times. You know, this is all from the private sector end. This is all essential information. And then all contact name, number, pagers, radio frequencies, all that stuff. Because we do have access to the same radios in that extent. In a private group, if your commo guys are good, you may have access to those frequencies as well. And then variable to whether it's the digital encryption stuff or whatever else. Location, arrival, and departure. Exact drop-off and pickup points at these various venues. Arrival times, again, timing your test runs. Alternate times and entrances. So, understanding the layout of your sensitive areas, your sensitive sites, your venues, all that stuff. Is the client to be met by anyone specific? And there's other sections talking about vetting those people as well. General plans and layout of said venues, sites, whatever. You should definitely know them pretty well. Surrounding area, manholes, outside buildings. So surrounding buildings, vantage points, threat areas, all those factors. How many floors, how many flights of stairs, how many elevators, what's the capacity, roof access, and any adjoining buildings. Again, more things to think about. Location parking. Where's the parking area? Is there a VIP area? You know, how are you approaching this and where are you staging? Security and operation. So who is designated where? Does the venue, does the site have additional security? Are you rendezvousing? Are you rallying with any additional people? Whatever it is. Facilities for chauffeurs and security personnel. Protectors, whatever. Where the toilets and phones are. The VIP route. If you know it as far as walking inside of the structure. And then if there's a walking route outside of the structure that they're going to be doing a tour. Things like that. Alternatives. Again, PACE. Doesn't just apply to comms. Areas to be secured. Where are you going to be holding down? Where are you going to be doing access control? Okay. Refreshments is the VIP eating at location. You guys taking a lunch break, blah, 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 blah. How and where the food is prepared. Arrangements for the protection team. So everyone's got to eat, right? You got to figure that out. Media, any press or TV present. What are the limits of access. Again, back to the access control. IDs being used. Always try and get credentials. Liaison with other personnel. So additional protection teams, on-site security, guests if there are any, based on what the venue is, like a hotel or whatever else. Managers, and anyone in control of fire systems or whatever, medical officers, any additional assets and persons of contact that you should have based on what's going on with the venue. And then fire drills, fire alarms, extinguishers, types, service details, alarm system in use, and type, how many cameras, things like that, nearest fire station and phone number, so everything into account. So here's an advanced security example checklist. You can design something like this for yourself, or you can, your employer, if, in this extent, if you're doing the private security thing, that may be what something that they offer. So location, date, time, people to contact, addresses, reservations, coordination, phone, projected time, duration of function. Okay. So verify point of contact, phone number, time of meeting, primary and alternate routes, again pace, primary and alternate drop sites, pace, primary and alternate entrances and exits through the building, so your defense in depth, your scope of concentricity, location and posting of advanced vehicle at emergency exit and escape route. Search the outside of the building, basic overview, the surrounding area, probable vehicle parking and staging area, primary alternate routes through the building, meeting room and seating arrangements, location of the local security and the posting of our operators, standing chair, table, and at doors, restroom locations, emergency exits, telephone fax machines, location and basic routes of all safe havens, police and hospitals, contact details for all safe havens, police, military, and hospitals, possible choke points and tax sites along the route, all that kind of stuff. Other important info, dress code, if there is any. And as that applies to your private group, are you dressing down? Are you going with overt kit? How are all these things working? And that obviously applies to how we do things, much more so in the executive protection side, in contrast to private military contracting, because there's a more typical set of attire, but it does vary, and low profile, much like what executive protection does based on where you are and all that kind of stuff. It all varies in. So do you have to blend in, or are you going to be formal, or are you going to be in kit? What's the deal? Identify other protection details or weapons on site, protocol or hostess on site, who are the attendees and how many, identification badges required, weapons allowed, and semicolons here so you can write yes, no, how many, whatever. How many detail members required on site. It's good to get names too. Important notes, driver stays with the vehicle or could be used for counter surveillance if possible outside the building. I've done videos talking about that before. Will require a 5 to 10 minute call before departure time. Additional info, political climate in the area, depending on the city or country you're in. Weather, additional persons, time of pickup location, time of drop-off and where, your next destination. Again, semicolons to write things out as needed. Route cards, maps, and digital pictures, video can be added to the advance report, and they should be. They always should be. Additional info, departure time, arrival time, meeting start time, meeting finish, distance from start point, sequence of events, special instructions, person doing the advance, and logged by. That's more for formal business, company, organization stuff. But if you want that set of verification for a private group as well, there you go. Moving over to threat assessment. The threat assessment is an ever-growing animal and should be revised and updated regularly. Also, with all the information of the current threat of your client You will need to study national and international newspapers, news broadcasts. Look for crime trends, terrorism groups, and tactics, and any political situations your client may be faced with. It's all pretty obvious stuff. There's some very good resources out there, and many great channels on YouTube doing that kind of thing. Forward Observer, who is a fellow veteran and worked and kind of still does work in the private sector doing intelligence reports. You've got our friends over at S2 Underground. You've got a number of other people doing reports on groups that are threats and terrorists. Go check them all out. When all the information has been attained, you can now categorize the threat level and establish the procedures needed to protect the client effectively. The following principles should apply. Your threat assessment should be clear, understandable, logical, report is rational and based on facts, accurate, not based on rumor, hearsay, and up to date. Always vet the information. A lot of these third-party journalistic news outlets and all that are on X and wherever else, you need to verify that stuff if you're going to implement it into any kind of intelligence feed for you and your group. Relevant. Include info relevant to the client needs. And brief or simple and concise. Attackers, selection of target. Threat is directed at client for who he is. Threat is directed at client for who he represents. Threat is directed at client for what he represents. Okay, rationale there. Attacker's motivation. Political, criminal, religious, vendetta or grievance, financial, mentally disturbed, or publicity. Attacker's methods can be assassination, kidnapping, injury or maiming, psychological, and blackmail and extortion. Also general espionage. Attacker's techniques. How will the threat be carried out? Bomb, shooting, knife, poisoning. With a lot of these, you can either check next to them or circle them, whatever, selection option you want to have for that kind of thing. Bomb, shooting, knife, poisoning. From collating the above information, you can categorize the appropriate threat level. An attack is definite, high risk. An attack is probable, medium risk. An attack is remote but possible, low risk. I would say low to medium, but you get the idea. The client must also be protected from other possible threats and accidents such as illness, fire, theft, harassment, environmental hazards, foreign conflicts and policy, otherwise, and logistic problems. You'll now need to establish the best approach to ensure an effective working relationship between your client / associates and family. A personal profile of the client, work colleagues, and family will dictate how this will be best achieved. You have to vet the people that are in your group and the people that you're working alongside and protecting as much as anything else. You have to have a dossier on everyone and understand everyone if you haven't, been around them and working with them for a long period of time and know them and a lot of general information about them. But all the general info, contact, and all that stuff and everything else. So that's kind of rounding it up for this one. So, all right. I went over some other really good training and vital information here. It should be useful to a lot of people who are just getting into the industry, doing this kind of work, maybe a refresher for some people, and for prepared private citizens to understand from a professional mindset and perspective and template formula of things. There may be some things in there you may not have thought of. Otherwise, again, it's just a good reminder. With that, thank you, everyone. More stuff coming soon. Metal up. Metal up.